realized some of you might be thinking, I know this motherfucker didn't start this goddamn show off talking about potentially shoving something up his ass for the first time and then just not come back to it like 7 episodes later. Well, let's fucking go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The really
fun.
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 It's a really fun wow show.
The really
Whoa,
fun.
The really fun wow show. Oh, how fun.
Hello and welcome to the Really Fun Wow Show. My name is Daren Thomas McGee. You came back. Thank you. Thanks for that. So, yeah, I understand that I came out of the gate pretty strong. And I think maybe that was the impetus for doing the show, getting to a point in my life where I was so deeply depraved, and not to imply that shoving stuff up your butt is any sort of implication of depravity, but I was at a point where I was desperately in need of some level of stimulation that I wasn't able to achieve through the means that I was pursuing. And so I branched out a bit and I followed my curiosity in that chance meeting that I had with somebody who told me about the prostate stimulator. And for those who maybe need a recap, which I highly doubt, I bought the prostate stimulator. It stayed on the top of my refrigerator for a while. And then shortly after recording the first episode of this show, way back in, that was like December, and it's February now, I shoved it up my butt. So let's talk about it. So how does one prepare for a situation in which they've never had any sort of prior experience of? Did I ever tell you guys about the first time I ever ejaculated? I don't know how old I was, 13, 14 maybe, and it involved, my mom. I know you listen to this show, even though I asked you to not listen to it. And I want to tell this story, but I don't want you to hear it. Could you please not listen to the rest of this episode? Please? Ugh, God damn it. I'm at a crossroads here. Do I share this story at the sake of making my mom squirm? Or do I spare you? Maybe you don't need to know. You don't need to know the details of the first time I ejaculated. You don't need to know, but I kind of really want to share it with you because it's funny. And if we're not laughing at life, what are we doing here? Anyway, the point I was making there was having never had any prior experience with this level of exploration in my own body, I didn't really know how to prepare. And not even just like logistically, which, you know, it's not complicated to shove something up your butt, but more like ambiatically. You know, what's the mood I'm setting? Am I lighting candles? Am I putting on some kind of music? I didn't do either of those in the fashion that I often pursue things. It was very kind of direct and unromantic and direct. So I got out the prostate stimulator and had some lubrication, which I had to procure from the grocery store, or I guess I could have ordered it online. But when the moment kicked in where I was like, I'm doing it tonight, I stopped off at the grocery store and I bought the lube, which I had a hard time finding, and some Goldfish crackers, and what else did I get? Some fruit, I think. And that was like, I didn't need either of those 2 other items, but it was like to just go up to the self-checkout with a singular bottle of lube, I felt strange about, which is to a greater point. Why would I feel strange? Why would I feel any sort of way about stimulation, pleasure, lubrication. What would anybody think? And I guess that's, to a greater point, who gives a shit what other people think? So I walk through the grocery store carrying a bottle of lube. Somebody sees me with that. What are they thinking? Oh man, that guy's about to have sex. Great. Little do they know what was really about to happen. And so, applied the lube to the stimulator. They recommend that you lay on your side and your top leg at a 90-degree angle, which is also, I believe, and I haven't had it yet, and I will soon have it, which I'll be happy to share with you. I haven't had a prostate exam yet because I'm not quite there yet. But this year I will be 40, and I think you're supposed to have it at 40. So good thing I already got the practice. I think that's the same way that they have you lay when you're getting your prostate exam. So I did that, applied the lube, began to place the apparatus into my body. And I'll be honest, it went in without much resistance. I went slowly and gently, as you should on your first time. And I got further and further. And I wondered, how much more is here? And there wasn't much more left. And I got fully in, and there it was. It was in my anus as far as it could go, and I didn't feel anything. And I wondered, okay, does it need to go a little further? And so I gave it a little bit more of a push. No, it had reached its full insertion. And I thought, and I was immediately disappointed. I was immediately feeling like shit. I really thought that this was going to be as simple as shoving this in my ass and fireworks of orgasmic explosion. And that wasn't the case. And so I remembered in the instructions to, as I pointed out in the first episode, the difference between the sphincter muscle and the ejaculate muscle, I think it's called. And so I'm kind of doing that as I'm doing right now, flexing the Kegel and the cum muscle. And I'm like, no, that's not pulling it any further. I mean, there's literally no sensation. I mean, it could barely even feel the whole thing in my ass. So, like, fuck, that's disappointing. And so I did what anyone would do, right? Got out my phone, hopped onto Google, and tried to seek some guidance here. And so I found myself on the forum for the product, and I'm kind of, when you're seeking the thing that you want to find, you're kind of ignoring all the other things. And I just want to be like, okay, what is the one? Am I doing? Is there one little change I can make to get to where I want to go? And there wasn't. And what I found, and what I ultimately was quite disappointed with, was that there was some recommendation, or that there was some, what's the fucking word I'm looking for here? That you basically, you need to be aroused in order to sort of marry the two together. And so like a general sexual arousal with this tool, that will be the key that unlocks the door to this wild orgasmic experience. And I will tell you what, I could not have been further from aroused in this situation. It was so utterly clinical, so just deeply desperate. Like, can I please just shove this thing up my ass and experience pleasure? The answer is no. And so I just, at this point in my life, at this point in that time, I was so far from like organic arousal. I hadn't been with anybody in a while. I found myself far from the state of being turned on. And again, that was like, well, let me just get this thing, that'll be the thing, instead of just touching more into what it is to be turned on, what it is to be aroused, what it is to feel that level of titillation in your body, and the connection between your mind and your body, and all of the things that really need to line up in order to access this level of pleasure. I was so far from it. I was trying to do it as as a shortcut, circuitous. That sounds like a word that people have used before. And I tried to cut corners, and it didn't work. So there I am. At this point, I'm not in the 90-degree leg angle anymore. I'm laying on my back, legs kind of like, knees kind of pointed in the air, stimulator still up my ass on the phone. Shit. What do I do now? Well, while I'm down here and while I have this thing up my butt, let me take a picture of what's going on here. And I've always had this weird aversion or insecurity around my anus. And I've always, in my mind, I've always pictured it to be so much bigger and so much uglier and so much more just like, wow, that is a situation that I'm glad is on the back of my body that I don't have to engage with on a regular basis. And I'll tell you what, my butthole's kind of cute. It is far smaller than I picture in my head. It's, it's not like, it's not manicured and prepped and prepared for a night out on the town, but it's not bad. It's really not a bad butthole. So that was nice. That felt good. A small little win in a night of abject failure. And it's a weird thing to witness because you don't, or I don't. You guys might see your butthole all the time. I don't know what kind of lives you're living. But it's so strange to have a part of your body that you're like, oh, that's like a very substantial part of my anatomy that I never see. And so it was nice to pay that little guy a visit. And so there I was, like, okay, well, I guess I need to be aroused, and I'm not. So let me take the thing out and pulled it out of my ass and washed it and put it away. And yeah, I guess again, like I felt disappointed that it wasn't as simple as just putting it in and having this alternative experience that I've never had before. So there I was. And I've been meaning to tell you guys, I've been busy. So, as things happen, you learn lessons, and they come in the most beautiful ways sometimes. And so what I learned there was you need people in your life. And I know this has been kind of a running theme for me in this time where I've been quite hermetic and cut off while desiring community and maybe a partnership, but really kind of like not sure how that would fit into my life, feeling a level of cynicism around partnership being a beneficial aspect in my life, and really just feeling like, you know what, I think I can do this all on my own. And that's my ego saying that, but then, my soul, who knows better, is also at the same time being like, well, maybe we should seek out partnership. And that came in the form of going onto dating apps, which is, for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of joining that community, holy shit, what a nightmare. It's just the most inorganic way of achieving something that should be wholly organic. I think that obviously there's people who have success stories from that and do really well in that sphere, but for me, it was just night after night of flipping through faces of people who, to me, just like the lifelessness of a selfie in the front seat of your car. Is that really the best you can do? That's how you want to attract a potential mate. It was so sad. And then just all the reoccurrences of tropes and these things, these cliches and like all of it was so fucking sad. And it started to feel like every time I'd go into the app, like I was visiting a grocery store that hasn't had its shelves restocked in years, and there's this sparse, spare shelf of a finite number of cans of beans on the shelf, and I go in and I have to look at these beans and like, I mean, those beans look okay. I'm not excited by those beans. I'm not even really attracted to those beans, but they're a can of beans on the shelf. I guess there's potential. And then I got to the point where, you know, you go through the people that the app deems worthy of showing you, and I reached the end of the options, and it's like, hey, you've looked at quite literally everyone available in your area. Would you like to start over again? And it felt like I had left the store without getting any beans, and then I was asked if I wanted to come back and look at the beans that I looked at already. And I was like, yeah, sure. Come back and look at the beans again. So it was sad. And I don't think it was the thing for me, clearly. And, you know, as a grown up in this day and age, it's hard, to meet people or hard for me. I mean, everybody else might be doing just fine because they go out and they visit, what are they called? Bars and clubs and festivals and parties, and they're engaging and they're actually like meeting people. I don't do that. So my option was to go on my phone, where I do everything else in my life, where I order food and I check my email and I use it as a flashlight to look for things under the couch, and I take photos and I run my business, and like everything I do, I use my phone for. And so it stands to reason that you use it to fucking look for a person. I'd like to find a person, please. And so, you know, it wasn't happening, and I was feeling and I almost feel like there's probably some level of intentionality behind these apps to not pair you with somebody that you might like. Am I going out on a limb here, on kind of a conspiratorial limb, to assume that these apps that make money from you every month by having you in this cycle of being just disappointed and never actually matching you with somebody you might like, almost seems a little intentional. And so I just didn't know what to do. And I don't think that there was any real consideration as to like what was next. Okay, well, this isn't working. What do we do next? It was just like in it, shoving stuff up my butt, in it. And, you know, as the universe does, it finds ways of bringing beauty into your life when you've maybe gotten to a point where you need it. Or I don't know how the fucking universe works. I'm not about to decipher any of that or explain how any of this shit works. But as fate would have it, I met somebody. And it wasn't through a dating app, but it was through another app. It was through Instagram that somebody reached out to me, and we started a conversation, and the conversation evolved, and things rapidly progressed, and there were feelings being felt on both ends. And I think part of it was because I wasn't approaching the situation with the way that I was approaching the dating situations, where clearly like you're on a dating app because you like want to date somebody and you want something, like you want the difference between people's wants and needs on those apps of like, and you clearly state them in the app, like looking for short-term relationship or long-term relationship or life partner or whatever. And so it's like very much obviously rooted in like, we are desiring partnership from each other. And so that's kind of again, another weird way to approach something where you're like, I think it's obviously important to have clarity as much as you can, but to be in this place where we're just like in a big fucking, what are they called? Cattle call, where we're all just like, we're needing something from each other. So it's like, again, I feel like it's a very inorganic situation. Excuse me. Very unprofessional. Why does this show make me so burpy? And so to be on this other app that I engage with too many times a day throughout the day, a conversation got started, and like I said, it evolved, and feelings were being felt. And I think that kind of me having my guard down in that situation where I wasn't approaching it with like, I got to say the exact right thing, and I got to be witty, and I got to do all these things again that the app imposes, or the dating app imposes, where on somewhere like Instagram, I'm myself. I am like just unadulteratedly Daren, and I'm very truthful, and I'm very honest, and I don't feel inauthentic. I feel quite the opposite, authentic. And so that happened, and that person is now what I would consider, she's my girlfriend. I have a girlfriend, which is something that we both were very kind of equally excited about referring to each other as, girlfriend and boyfriend. It feels folksy, and it feels really like young and innocent, and I really like identifying as a boyfriend. It just feels like a nice place to be after having not been a boyfriend for a really long time. I think that is, I love the novelty of that. And so now I've found myself suddenly in a relationship. And what does that mean? Like, what does that imply? Any of the what is or what ifs in it are kind of none of my business, or that I'm not trying to consider or like wonder about and say like, what does this mean now for me or anything? And you know, to have come from a place of like, I was quite literally seeking out partnership through this app, that again, I had all intentionality of like finding a person through this thing, and then to find somebody just kind of like accidentally through this place that is largely like where I run my business. It's like, oh no shit. Okay. Well, that took an interesting turn. And to really like to feel into it, I've kind of been having this kind of moment of understanding around what it is to feel and what it is to know, and the difference between the two, where I feel like there's kind of this order of operation in the way that we should, sorry, I'm not about to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do. The way that I've felt most comfortable with lately is, one, feeling it in your gut. And if you feel it in your gut, follow it, pursue it, see what it's about. And then you get to a point where you know it in your heart. And then the third being, think it in your head. And oftentimes when it's like gotten to that point where it's gone through the gut, the heart, up to the head's going to be the thing who's going to question it, going to say the what ifs, the like, well, what does this mean? And all of that shit that just complicates it. And so if you can stay in the gut and stay in that feeling of intuition and trusting that you know, quote unquote, you know better than yourself, that you can keep following this feeling that initially got you there, that there's no level of rationalization in it, and there's not a part of you that should get to the head and be like, oh, you know what, I figured it out in my head. This isn't something that I should be involved in, and just really staying in the gut. And I don't know, that's felt really right for me, because I feel like if I would have tried to rationalize it, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am now. I would have overthought it and fucked it up, and you know, just been in a place where I thought I knew, and now I've found out that I didn't know, and in the course of that, ruined it all. So it's been amazing, and it's completely novel for me to be in this position where I am somebody's person. And that's like such a wild thing to me, because I got so comfortable with being like, I got this, I can figure this out, I can do all this on my own, I don't need somebody, I will shove the thing up my butt, I will get to the place that I need to without anybody else. And to now then to feel the opposite of that, to feel what it is to experience the joy and the love in having another person, I know I'm like explaining all this like an alien who's just sort of been introduced this idea of what it is to have a person on the other end of this. And I very much feel like an alien in all of this, where I'm like, whoa, that's really cool. Oh, I didn't realize you can feel that. Oh, wow. And without really, again, like trying not to get in my own way about it, just feel it while it's happening, not overthink it. And so, yeah, it's been really great. And I think, if somebody was crafting a story arc in all of this from episode 1, where this guy was so lonely, he was just doing all manners of operation to get to himself to some level of pleasure. And then within the course of just a couple of weeks within that, meeting somebody and finding out that the answers weren't in his own butt. And it's something that there's like a lightness, and there's a level of confidence and a level of comfort that comes with just being able to look towards somebody and to share something with somebody. And again, I feel like I'm explaining the virtues of relationship to many of you who maybe know this already, and to those who are also sort of seeking this. I have no advice to give you, because this shit, like I said, came out of nowhere, and I don't think that there's a game plan in any of this, or that you could sell somebody any sort of process on how to find somebody. I think, as I'm about to try and explain to you what my process was in all of this, first things first, buy a prostate stimulator, shove it up your butt, find out that that's not the answer. Yeah, I mean, I love to be able to look back at how all of this played out and find so much humor in it, and be able to laugh at it. And when I told my girlfriend about having the stimulator up my butt and then like trying to find answers on Google, she laughed at me, and then I laughed at myself. And that is, to me, the greatest gift, to be able to be laughed at and then to laugh at yourself in all of this. And I mean, this is all fucking hilarious. The way that we've ended up here. It's something I'm really excited about, and something that I just continue to like watch unfold in real time, and to just really have trust that things will continue to unfold in a way that is for my highest good. Is that a thing? That's a thing that people say, right? Like, I don't know if it can be attributed, but the quote of the universe is conspiring in your favor. I've always liked that one. And I think just, taking your own judgment out of any of this, out of the points where I was so deeply lonely on these apps at the end of the night and so sad, and like all of that is valuable. All of that's information that led me to where I am now, and I wouldn't have changed it. I wouldn't have asked for anything different. And so there you go. We circled back around to the butt stuff. Thank you guys so much for joining me. It's really fun to do this show, and I just feel like it's something that again, there's no reason to do this other than it's just fun to get to talk to you. And I really appreciate all the messages I've gotten from you guys, and expressing how this show has done anything for you whatsoever means the world to me. So thank you all so much for coming back. And now let's try something a little bit different. I'm going to read you guys a quote from off the top of my head. One second. What it is to know oneself can really, you know what? I don't think I want to do this anymore. It's really hard. I feel like every quote that I do, it kind of starts off the same way and then obviously goes nowhere, because that's not how great stuff happens off the top anyway. Fuck it. I love you.
That was the really fun wow show. All right, we're done. Oh, yep. Okay, bye.